The first sign something was wrong came in the form of a misplaced phone. Kent's iPhone, lying face up on our marble kitchen counter, lit up with a message from my brother Roman. She'll never see it coming. Tomorrow we finish this. I'm Madeline, and that text message was the beginning of the end of my marriage, my family ties, and everything I thought I knew about loyalty. Working late again? I called out to Kent, who was rushing around upstairs getting ready for another emergency board meeting. The house echoed with his footsteps. Yeah, honey, don't wait up. His voice carried down, distracted as always lately. I heard him searching for something. Have you seen my phone? My fingers traced the edge of his phone as I quickly forwarded the incriminating email thread I'd just discovered to my personal account. Found it downstairs. I kept my voice steady, though my hands were shaking. The emails laid out their entire plan. My husband and brother, the two men I trusted most in the world, had spent months orchestrating my removal from the company my grandmother built from nothing. The company I'd given my life to since I was 16. You're a lifesaver, Kent said, bounding down the stairs. He kissed my cheek, grabbed his phone, and headed for the door. The same lips that had just touched my skin had called me the only obstacle to modernization in those emails. I waited until his car pulled out of the driveway before calling Prudence. They're selling to Megacorp, I said when she answered. The deal's almost done. Jesus Christ, Prudence breathed. Your grandmother would roll over in her grave. Are you sure? The emails spell it out. Kent's been working with Roman for months. They need my shares, but they think they can force my hand. I laughed, but it came out more like a sob. They're planning to present evidence that I've been mismanaging funds. Those bastards, Prudence hissed. What are you going to do? I walked to my grandmother's portrait hanging in the study. Her stern eyes seemed to bore into me, challenging me to be stronger. She'd built this company from a single shop into a regional powerhouse, fighting sexism and corruption every step of the way. I'm going to destroy them, I said, my voice hardening. But first, I'm going to let them think they've won. Can you meet me tomorrow? I need a lawyer I can trust, and you're the only one who knew my grandmother as well as I did. I'll clear my schedule. And Madeline? They have no idea who they're messing with. I touched my grandmother's portrait, remembering her words. In business, men will underestimate you. Let them. It's the last mistake they'll make. No, I agreed, steel entering my voice. They really don't. You need to play weak, Prudence said, sliding a stack of papers across her desk. Men like Kent and Roman, they expect tears and surrender. Give them exactly what they want. I sat in her downtown office the next morning, still wearing yesterday's makeup, trying to look appropriately devastated. It wasn't hard. I hadn't slept. The investment group is already set up, she continued. Female-led, completely legitimate, but impossible to trace back to you. When you sell your shares, they'll go straight to them. And Kent won't suspect anything? Kent's too busy celebrating his perceived victory to look closely. Speaking of which, Prudence turned her computer monitor toward me. Look what your husband just did. The screen showed an internal company memo. Kent had authorized a massive loan to finance a new expansion project, without board approval. He's getting cocky, I said, scanning the details. This could bankrupt us if it goes wrong. Exactly. And guess who's going to be blamed for approving it? I leaned back, understanding dawning. Me. He's setting me up to take the fall. The intercom buzzed. Ms. Foster, Mr. Holmes is here to see you. Prudence and I exchanged looks. Right on cue, she muttered. Ready? I messed up my hair slightly, pinched my cheeks to look flushed. How do I look? Like a woman who just found out her husband's betraying her. Perfect. Kent strode in, all fake concern and practiced sympathy. Madeline, honey, I've been looking everywhere for you. How could you? I whispered, letting my voice crack. The company, my grandmother's legacy. It's for the best, he said, reaching for my hand. I let him take it, fighting the urge to recoil. You're exhausted, stressed. Let me and Roman handle things for a while. Prudence cleared her throat. My client is willing to discuss terms for a temporary transfer of her shares. Kent's eyes lit up, though he quickly masked it with more concern. Honey, you don't have to decide anything right now. I just want it to be over, I said, dabbing at my eyes with a tissue. Promise me you won't sell to Megacorp. Promise me you'll protect what Grandma built. Of course, he lied smoothly. Family legacy means everything to me. I signed the papers with shaking hands, transferring my shares to the mysterious investment group. Kent hugged me, probably congratulating himself on how easily I'd broken. After he left, Prudence poured 2 glasses of whiskey. Oscar-worthy performance. I took a long sip. He didn't even read the fine print. The shares transfer isn't final until after the shareholder meeting next month. By which time, Prudence smiled wickedly, your network will be in place. Time to make some calls, I said, pulling out my phone, starting with Autumn Garcia. Your husband seriously didn't notice the shell company was called Karma Holdings? Autumn laughed, her heels clicking against the floor of her startup's empty office. We'd chosen to meet after hours to avoid prying eyes. Kent never looks past the surface of anything, I said, watching Tori set up her laptop. That's why he married the simple girl who inherited Grandma's company. Tori, a marketing genius I'd discovered through Prudence, pulled up a presentation. Speaking of surface appearances, we've started planting the seeds. Look at these financial blogs. The screen filled with articles questioning Kent's leadership abilities. Subtle at first, concerns about the unauthorized loan, whispers about his lack of experience, doubts about the company's direction. Beautiful, I said. How's he taking it? Your brother Roman called an emergency PR meeting this morning, Tori smirked. They're scrambling to contain it. My phone buzzed. A text from Kent. Where are you? We need to talk about these ridiculous articles. Showtime, I muttered, quickly texting back. At the spa, doctor's orders. Too stressed to deal with business right now. You're really selling this breakdown, Autumn noted approvingly. But won't Kent get suspicious if you're never home? Oh, I'm home plenty. Crying into wine glasses, taking long baths, calling my therapist. I'm giving him exactly what he expects from a broken woman. Tori's computer pinged. Heads up, someone just leaked Kent's expansion plans to the business press. I smiled. Right on schedule. Xavier's always been good with timing. Your IT guy? Autumn asked. Xavier's been with the company since my grandmother's days. He saw through Kent's act immediately. I checked my watch. He should be calling Kent right about... My phone rang. Kent's name flashed on the screen. Hello? I made my voice small, fragile. Madeline, someone leaked confidential documents. This is a disaster. I need you to come to the office and help damage control. I can't, I whispered. The doctor gave me something to help me sleep. I'm not thinking clearly. Damn it, Madeline, this is important. I'm sorry, I can't. I hung up, letting him stew in his panic. Autumn slow clapped. That was cold. I love it. The best part? Tori turned her laptop to show us another screen. The leaked documents reveal Kent's been cooking the books. Nothing illegal yet, but definitely shady enough to spook investors. My phone buzzed again. Roman this time. We need to talk. Alone. Looks like your brother's getting nervous, Autumn observed. I stood, gathering my things. Good. Let him sweat. Next week we move to phase 2. What's phase 2? Tori asked. We let Grace and her investment group make their first move. Time to show Kent and Roman what real power looks like. Karma Holdings requests an immediate audit of all financial records, Grace announced to the stunned boardroom. Her silver hair and elegant suit radiated authority as she stood at the head of the table. Kent's face reddened. You can't do that. You don't have the authority. We own 20% of this company, Grace interrupted smoothly. We absolutely have the authority. I sat in the corner, playing with my phone, seemingly disinterested. Inside, I was savoring every moment. This is ridiculous, Roman snapped. Who are you people? Where did you even come from? We're a collective of concerned investors, Grace replied, and we're very interested in that unauthorized loan you approved, Mr. Holmes. Xavier chose that moment to walk in, carrying a stack of files. The financial records you requested, Ms. George. Kent slammed his hand on the table. Those are confidential. Xavier, you can't... Actually, he can, Grace said, and should, unless you have something to hide. I watched Roman's face carefully. He was starting to realize something wasn't right. His eyes kept darting between me and Grace, wheels turning. After the meeting, Roman cornered me in the hallway. You're behind this, aren't you? I blinked at him, channeling confusion. Behind what? I sold my shares, remember? I'm just here because Kent insists I keep up appearances. Cut the act, Madeline. I know you. You're not as broken as you're pretending to be. I let my eyes water. How can you say that? After everything. After you and Kent. This morning I found an old photo of us with Grandma. Roman pressed. Remember what she always said about revenge? Serve it cold, I whispered, then quickly added, but I couldn't. Roman studied my face for a long moment, then laughed. You know what? I'm being paranoid. The Madeline I know couldn't pull something like this off. You can barely handle running the company, let alone orchestrating some elaborate revenge plot. I ducked my head, letting him see my trembling hands. I should go. My therapist says I need to avoid stress. As I walked away, I heard Kent approach Roman. Well? Kent asked. It's not her, Roman replied. She's exactly what she seems. Broken. We broke her. I turned the corner and found Xavier waiting. They bought it? He asked quietly. Hook, line, and sinker. I straightened my shoulders, dropping the victim act. How's the audit going? Grace's team found everything. Kent's been siphoning money into personal accounts for months. Perfect. I checked my phone. A message from Autumn lit up the screen. And right on schedule, our anonymous tip just reached the SEC. You're really going to destroy them, aren't you? I smiled, thinking of Roman's dismissive words. They destroyed themselves the moment they underestimated me. Megacorp is pulling out of the deal, Tori announced, bursting into Prudence's office. Kent's been trying to reach their CEO all morning. I looked up from the documents I'd been reviewing. How do you know? Because I'm having lunch with his secretary in an hour, Tori grinned. She says he's becoming unhinged, threw a stapler at the wall. Prudence poured herself a coffee. The SEC investigation's hitting harder than expected. 3 board members have already resigned. My phone buzzed, Kent's name flashing on the screen. Again. I declined the call. Madeline, Roman's voice boomed as he pushed through the door. We need to talk, now. I flinched on cue, but he grabbed my arm before I could retreat. Stop with the scared rabbit act. I know you're behind this. Behind what? I whispered, voice trembling. The audit. The SEC, Megacorp backing out. It's too perfect. He leaned closer, his grip tightening. But you know what? You're too late. Kent's announcing the sale at next week's shareholder meeting anyway. What sale? I pulled away, genuinely confused. Megacorp pulled out. Roman's smile turned cruel. Who said anything about Megacorp? Kent found another buyer, one that'll strip this company for parts. Grandma's legacy will be nothing but a memory. He can't, I said, letting real emotion crack my voice. The shareholders would never approve. They will when they see the books Kent's prepared. Everything pointing to your mismanagement. Your signature on all the wrong documents. He patted my cheek condescendingly. Should have stayed broken, sis. After he left, Prudence locked the door. Well, that changes things. No, I said, pulling out my phone. It doesn't. Autumn? I heard everything. Autumn's voice came through the speaker. Already on it. Grace is calling an emergency meeting of our investor group. Tori was typing furiously on her laptop. Kent's new buyer. It's a shell company, registered last week. Can you trace it? I asked. Already did. You're not going to believe this. It leads back to Roman. He's double-crossing Kent. I laughed, surprising everyone. Oh, Roman, you never could resist trying to be the smartest person in the room. What's our play? Prudence asked. Kent's planning to throw me under the bus. Roman's planning to throw Kent under the bus. I stood, straightening my jacket. I say we let them. And then? Tori asked. And then we show them what happens when you underestimate not just me, but every woman they've ever dismissed. I checked my grandmother's old watch. Time to call in some favors. The shareholder meeting just got moved up to tomorrow. Tomorrow? Prudence exclaimed. Can we be ready? I smiled, thinking of Kent's face when he realized who really held the power. We've been ready since day 1. Your wife's here, Xavier announced, stepping into Kent's office. She's in the conference room, crying. Kent loosened his tie, clearly agitated. Now? I don't have time for her dramatics. The meeting's in 12 hours. She says she wants to sign over full control of her remaining shares, to make things easier. That got Kent's attention. He practically ran to the conference room, where I sat dabbing my eyes with tissues. Madeline, honey. His voice dripped with fake concern. I found this, I whispered, sliding a document across the table. In Grandma's old files. You need it for tomorrow, don't you? Kent's eyes widened as he read. The original company charter, giving the founding family final say in any sale. My signature was the last piece he needed. You're doing the right thing, he said, reaching for a pen. The door burst open. Roman stormed in, face red. Don't sign anything. But Kent said, Kent's been lying to everyone, Roman shouted. Show her the real deal, Kent. Show her who's really buying the company. Kent's face darkened. You're the one who's lying. I saw the transfer documents. You're trying to cut me out. I sat forgotten as they argued, their voices getting louder, more desperate, each revealing the other's betrayals. Gentlemen! Grace's voice cut through the chaos. She stood in the doorway, flanked by Autumn and Tori. Is this a bad time? Get out, Kent snarled. This is a private, family matter. Autumn stepped forward. That's exactly why we're here. Tori handed each of them a folder. You might want to read these before tomorrow's meeting. What is this? Roman flipped through the pages, his face draining of color. Evidence, I said, standing up. My voice was strong now, no trace of tears. Every backdoor deal, every manipulated document, every secret meeting. Kent stared at me. This whole time? You both thought I was weak, I said. Thought I'd break. Instead, I built something stronger than either of you could imagine. Karma Holdings isn't just an investment group, Grace explained. We're a coalition of every woman you've ever underestimated, every assistant you ignored, every executive you passed over. You can't prove anything, Roman insisted, but his hands were shaking. Check your phones, Tori smiled. The press has already received copies of everything. You'll destroy the company, Kent shouted. No, I said, walking to the door. I'm saving it, the same way Grandma would have. I turned back one last time. See you at the meeting, boys. Try not to be late. You won't want to miss the opening statements. As we walked out, I heard Kent's phone ringing, probably his lawyer. Too little, too late. The shareholder meeting room buzzed with tension. Kent and Roman sat at the front, both looking like they'd aged years overnight. I took my seat in the back, next to Prudence. All present? Grace stood at the podium, commanding instant silence. Then let's begin with some introductions. I'm Grace George, CEO of Karma Holdings, or as you might better know us, the Women's Business Alliance. Murmurs rippled through the room. Kent's hand clenched his armrest. Our first order of business, Grace continued, concerns the proposed sale of this company. Mr. Holmes, would you like to present your proposal? Kent stumbled to the podium, shuffling papers. The deal with has fallen through, Autumn interrupted, standing. Both deals, actually. Megacorp withdrew their offer after discovering financial irregularities. And the second buyer, she smiled at Roman, mysteriously disappeared this morning, along with their offshore accounts. This is ridiculous, Roman snapped. You demand nothing, I said, walking to the front. You have no power here. You never did. Madeline? Kent's voice cracked. But you signed over your shares. To us, Tori stood, to every woman in this room who spent years watching you take credit for their work. One by one, women stood throughout the room. The head of accounting, the marketing director, the operations manager, each holding voting proxies from other shareholders. You see, I said, taking the podium, while you were busy betraying me, I was building something Grandma always dreamed of, a network of women supporting women. The SEC has been notified of your financial misconduct, Prudence announced. They'll be here within the hour. Kent lunged for the door, but Xavier blocked his path. Going somewhere, sir? You can't do this, Roman pleaded. We're family. Family? I laughed. You tried to steal my grandmother's legacy. You forged my signature. You thought I was weak because I'm a woman. I faced the shareholders. I moved to remove Kent Holmes and Roman Norris from all positions within this company, effective immediately. Second, Grace called. All in favor? The room filled with raised hands. Kent slumped in defeat. By the way, I added as security arrived to escort them out, those documents you found in Grandma's files? She left those for me, along with a letter warning me to watch out for men exactly like you. This isn't over, Roman threatened as he was led away. Actually, it is. I turned to the shareholders. Now let's talk about the future, about building something stronger than one person's greed, about creating a company where talent matters more than gender. As applause filled the room, I caught Grace's eye. She nodded approvingly. Your grandmother would be proud, Prudence whispered. I touched the locket containing Grandma's picture. She always said revenge is best served cold. She just never mentioned how sweet it would taste. You didn't have to come, Prudence said as we walked through the courthouse parking lot. The sentencing is just a formality. I needed to see it finished. The morning air was crisp, matching my mood. Any word from Roman? His plea deal went through yesterday, 18 months plus restitution. She checked her phone. Kent should be getting 30 to 40. Inside, we found Autumn and Tori already seated. Grace joined us moments later, sliding into the bench with her usual elegance. Kent looked smaller in his prison jumpsuit, deflated without his expensive suits and arrogance. When the judge asked if he had anything to say, he turned to face me. "I'm sorry," he said, voice hollow. "I never saw you, not really." "No," I replied, loud enough for him to hear. "You saw exactly what you wanted to see." The judge's gavel fell. 36 months. As they led Kent away, I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no closure, just emptiness. Outside, Grace touched my arm. "Come on, there's something you need to see." They drove me to the office where Xavier met us in the lobby. They're waiting upstairs. The conference room was packed with women, young interns, seasoned executives, entrepreneurs. Some I recognized from the shareholder meeting, others were new faces. "What is this?" I asked. "Your grandmother's real legacy," Autumn explained. "Every woman here has a story like yours, about men who tried to push them down, push them out." "We're calling it the Foster Initiative," Tori said, "a mentorship program for women in business. Prudence agreed to let us use her name." Prudence shrugged. "Your grandmother was my mentor, time to pay it forward." A young woman stepped forward. "Ms. Holmes, I'm starting my own company. They said you might have some advice." I looked around the room, seeing determination in every face. The emptiness inside me began to fill with something warmer, more powerful than revenge. My phone buzzed. A text from Roman. "You won. Happy?" I typed back. Happiness was never the goal. Change was. "Ready to get started?" Grace asked, gesturing to the waiting women. I unclasped my grandmother's locket, placing it on the conference room wall next to her portrait. "You know what she used to say? Success is sweet, but empowering others is sweeter." "Smart woman," Autumn smiled. "She was," I agreed, turning to face my new family, stronger than blood, bound by shared purpose rather than DNA. "So, who's first?" The room erupted in raised hands and eager voices. This, I realized, was better than revenge. This was revolution, and we were just getting started.